here we go again. And I have the pleasure of having Mario Martinez Jr. with us. What is going on, my friend?
Ken, I'm super excited to be here with you. What's going on? Just a day in the life of living in the digital sales world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, I can tell you that I'm honored and stoked that you're among the guests that we have on this B2B Sales Summit. But let me kind of, I guess, put a little bit out there so everybody else understands why what you're going to say is going to be so game-changing for their sales world. So first of all, Mario is the CEO and co-founder of Vengresso, which in my opinion is the best digital sales transformation company, and I would say in the world. So I will tell you that, Mario, that's my opinion for what it's worth. In 2017, though, if you want to talk about some of Mario's accomplishments, he was named one of the top 25 most influential inside sales professionals in the world, 6th most influential social selling leader, and the #1 online sales guru. So there's a whole bunch of accolades. Do you want me to stop now or should I continue?
Oh, please, stop. No more.
I had to look at them because there were so many of them and so many words, but it's fantastic. So Mario, we're absolutely stoked to have you here and to talk about this thing that I think is pretty badly understood in the world today, believe it or not, which is digital selling. Yeah. But before I give you the easy questions, you talk about this thing, and I just got to have you explain it to me. I mean, you talk about do not do normal. What is that? Why does that matter, and how does that relate to digital selling?
Yeah, hashtag don't do normal. So if anybody's listening right now, if you want to tweet some stuff out, you can use that hashtag don't do normal. It's a great question, Ken. And I love this particular topic in terms of digital selling. Like, as you talked about, it's a bunch of different accolades all related to social. But I grew up, I'm 40 years old. I've spent, since I was 19 years old, my first software telemarketing job at 19 years old. So 21 years that I've spent inside of sales. And I grew up pounding the phones, if you would, knuckles bleeding till you got to the appointment that you needed to get to be able to hit your quota, right? And that's exactly what we were all trained to do. And everybody who's that age, 40 and older, right, that's in the director level and above type positions in any sales organization, we grew up selling the way we grew up selling, and it always worked. It worked very, very, very well.
Right.
But the reason why I talk about don't do normal is because what got you here is not what's going to get you there, right? And that's really important that people understand this particular concept, that normal is pounding the phones. Normal is sending more emails. Normal is trying to go to these networking events and shake people's hands and trying to haphazardly meet individuals. That's what we would normally do. But normal is what got brands like Blockbuster in trouble. It's what got brands or groups like the taxi industry in trouble, right? And what happened is the buyer changed the game. And brands, massive brands like Blockbuster or the taxi industry has suffered or went out of business as a direct result of not having responded to buyers' demands. So throughout this, this interview here, I really encourage people to stop and think. If you remembered only one thing, just one, Ken, it's don't do normal. And you've got to adjust to the way the buyer has changed the game on us as a sales community. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's unbelievable because I think we forget about that, right? The largest taxi company doesn't own a single taxi.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the largest hotel companies in the world, if you wanted to call it that, doesn't own a single piece of property. So yeah, the buyer is changing. And if we don't pay attention, then I think we're certainly in trouble. So you've tied it together for me. So I really appreciate that. Go ahead.
Well, if you think about this, I'll give you a couple illustrations. I mentioned Blockbuster, right? Yeah. And how Blockbuster is a brand that we all knew about, but doesn't even exist anymore, right? Think about the hotel industry. The hotel industry is hemorrhaging. It's suffering massively. Why? Well, not because Airbnb came on board and said, hey, we've got this really cool way to be able to now reserve hotel rooms. It was because the buyers said, I no longer want to be told where I can sleep at and or stay at. I want to experience where I want to go, when I want to go, and I want to be able to have choice of pricing that I want to pay, which is not what the hotel industry provided, right? Buyers in the Blockbuster case, they said, stop Blockbuster, stop charging me the extra late fees for if I want to keep the movie an extra 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 days. And if I want to watch it as many times as I want to watch it, don't charge me for keeping that particular DVD. Well, Blockbuster couldn't figure it out, and up and came a new provider called Netflix, which said you can have it as much as you want, as long as you want it, when you want it, and it's only an X dollars per month type of cost, and you can stream it directly because everybody has, guess what? A connected device, right? So the buyer changed the game, and companies like Blockbuster, companies like the hotel industry, which are suffering as a result of companies like Airbnb, the taxi industry, which is suffering from companies like Lyft and Uber, right? They did not adopt or change to the changing landscape of today's modern buyer. And that's what we're talking about here from a sales perspective as well, is don't do normal, because guess what? The buyer has changed. How did it change? I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think I can't let you off. I mean, it's just a perfect segue. I think ultimately we've got to discuss, how has the modern buyer changed? You know, it's obviously there's a few examples, but talk to me about that.
Yeah. So first, I like to, before I go into talk about the 4 cardinal attributes of today's modern buyer, I want you to think about this from a sales perspective. I'm going to ask you a question as well. In today's sales world, if we dialed 100 calls as a sales rep, how many calls do you think I actually connect with a live person out of 100?
It's probably a pretty low number. So I don't know, 5.
Okay. Let's give you averages a 3%, right? 3%. Let's just say it's 10%. Okay. Let's just say it's 10. And there are some stats out there that do support a 10% hit ratio. 10%. Now, if you had a team of sales people, SDRs, sales reps, account managers, whatever you want to call it, inside sales folks, and every person got 10 out of 100 phone calls, appointments booked, or contacts made, you'd be like, yes, that's freaking awesome. I love it, right?
You're the worst Major League Baseball in history.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But you got to think about this. Whoa, wait a minute. What are we not talking about here? What we're not talking about is the fact that you didn't touch, reach, or be able to communicate with 90 out of 100 people.
Yeah.
Now that's the number that we need to focus on. And so when you think about today's buyer, as a sales organization, if we're creating outreach, if we're reaching out, as sales leaders, we have to stop thinking about the 10 that we got. We need to start thinking about, how in the world am I going to reach the other 90, right? And so that's when full segue into today's buyer. It's back to your original question. How has today's modern buyer changed for the B2B sales community? The answer is in 4 ways. Number 1, we know that today's buyer is digitally enabled. Now, let me ask you a question. The average number of devices, Ken, that people have worldwide that are connected devices, what do you think that number is? Average number, connected devices.
2.
Close.
Well, I mean, it's worldwide, so.
3.64 connected devices. 3.64. Now, the operative word here is connected. What do you think a connected device? What are they doing on a connected device?
I think they're connecting
to the World Wide Web, right? They're accessing, they are digitally enabled on, and we're talking about, you have a device, a cell phone, you may have a laptop, you have an iPad. There's 3 right there. Boom, you got 3, right? Yep. And in many cases, you might have 2 actually home computers back at home, right? So 3.64 connected devices. We know with a certainty that the average person worldwide is a digitally connected individual. That applies to our buyers. Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, if you're digitally connected, what the heck are you doing? You're certainly connecting. You're certainly reaching and pulling for data and information. But we also know that today's modern buyer is also socially engaged. How do we know that? Well, if you take a look at the stats from 2008 and you look at the percentage of the US population with a social networking profile from 2008, 24% of the US population had a social networking profile.
Okay.
Wild guess, Ken, what did they have at the end of 2016? What was the total percentage of the US population with a social networking
I'd
profile?
say it doubled to just over double, say 55%.
Close. 78%.
I love how you keep telling me close when I'm off by like 40%.
Well, I want to help you out here. I don't want to make you feel too bad. 78% though, right? Now ask yourself, holy crap, like 78% of the US population by the end of 2016 had a social networking profile. Now, this study included every single social networking profile that was out there, including dating sites and et cetera. But if you think of the big ones, you got Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Those are the big ones, right? The big monster ones. That's where majority of the folks are spending their time at. So we know that today's buyer is socially engaged, but let's apply this now to a B2B setting, right? In the B2B world, there was a study that was done that was published by Corporate Executive Board, and it talked about, it was asked a question, have you ever used social media such as LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or other online professional communities to assist you with your company purchases? Now, this was a group of B2B buyers just shy of 1,000. 75%, Ken, of B2B buyers said, yes, they have. They've used LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or online professional community to be able to help them with company purchases. Now, of that 75% that said yes, 84% of the C-level and VP executives that were surveyed used social media to make purchasing decisions. That number is pretty staggering. And when I think when reps, leaders take a step back, like, wait a minute, I'm not reaching 90% of my buying community every time I make a call. 90%. 9 out of 10 calls I'm not reaching, right? Yeah. Also, I know that there's 3.64 average connected devices per person, which means that they're out there connecting and pulling in data and information. And that at a minimum, 78% of the US population alone is socially engaged. And that 84% of the executives saying they're using social networking profiles. My goodness, why am I not engaged in these particular areas? But it doesn't stop there. Think about it from this perspective. The third cardinal attribute is that our buying community is mobile attached. All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Ken. I'm going to totally embarrass you, but I'm going to ask you this question, and everybody else who's watching in on this session right now, I want you to be answering this question in your own head. All right, you ready for me, Ken?
I'm as ready as I can be.
All right, I know it's going to be a little embarrassing, but bear with me. Ken, do you take your phone to the bathroom with you? Yes or yes?
Yes.
And everybody who's listening, and they're like, oh, that's so gross. I can't believe he said that. Look, we take it to the bathroom with us. And in some cases, you're sitting there in a public stall and you hear someone talking on the phone in the stall next to you.
And that's where I draw the line.
That's where I draw the line as well. But my point is that we are so attached to our mobile devices. We're constantly connected. We're socially engaged. We are pooling information and we are pushing information that we take it to the bathroom with us. Now, if we're doing that, why wouldn't our buyers be doing that?
No.
Let me think about it from this perspective. Ken, at nighttime, where does this phone go in your room?
It's about a half a foot from my head.
About a half a foot from your head. God forbid we get some sort of EMF type of brain dysfunction. But the reality is most of us are sleeping with this device next to us, exactly as you said, charged, plugged in on the nightstand.
Yep.
We are mobile attached. So the question you have to ask yourself as a salesperson is how am I leveraging mobile technology to be able to connect with my buyers? Right?
I think it's dumbfounding, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with you. And now the fourth element of today's modern buyer is that they're video hungry. They're video hungry. And think about this. By the end of this year, 2018, it is predicted that 79% of consumer internet-related traffic
Yeah.
will be as a result of video consumption. 79%.
Yeah, and there's nobody standing outside of this interview that actually believes that until you tell them it's actually true.
That's exactly right. So if you think about this, like, all right, that could be all consumers, it could be all individuals. Let's net this down though to specifically B2B, right? Let's talk about B2B. Now, if you think about, there was a survey that was recently done, and it said that 75% of business executives watch work-related videos at least weekly. 54% of executives share work-related videos at least weekly. Now, there was another study that was done that identified that 59% of senior executives agreed that if text and a video were available on the same topic on the same page, guess what they'd prefer to watch or to watch?
I'm going to assume based upon this conversation that it's video. I'm going to show you I can be led.
That's exactly right. You're so good, man. You're so good to be led. They'd rather watch the video. So think about this. Today's modern buyer has changed the game on us considerably. They are digitally enabled, socially engaged, mobile attached, and they're video hungry. Now, I took a lot of time to go through each one of these elements here. I think it's very important because the question I think that sellers and leaders need to ask themselves is, shoot, am I engaging in this methodology, in those 4 ways that buyers want to engage with? And if you're not, shame on you. You will be like Blockbuster. You will be like the taxi industry. You will be like the hotel industry, which is suffering as a direct result of not changing to the buyer dynamics and what they brought to the marketplace and what they've asked us how to change.
Yeah, it's amazing to me because if you think about it, you walk into sales floors and into the offices, and what you see people continuing to measure activity over productivity. And I wonder if leaders and people just don't understand how to make that transition. I mean, I guess I'd ask you the quick question, what would you measure if you're not just measuring dials and emails and kind of the traditional things?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I love that question because this is a really hard for sales leaders, right? Again, I said I was 40 years old. You and I are in the same category. We've been selling this way for the longest of times. We were always measured, and the proof of our productivity, if you would, was measured based upon the amount of activity that we did, right? There was a direct correlation between the number of calls that we made to the what was filled up in our pipeline, right? Yeah. And that's what we've always measured salespeople by. Don't Do Normal says, stop it. Stop measuring reps and stop measuring your sales team based upon a metric that is no longer valid in totality. Not saying it's dead. I'm saying in totality. What we should really be caring about, to answer your question specifically, is not the number of dials that you made, not the number of emails that you've sent, not the number of networking events that you've attended. What you care about is the number of conversations that you've hosted, that you've had, right? The number of conversations. Why do we care about that number? Well, because whether you're using text, video, email, LinkedIn, Twitter, phone calling, I think I skipped a finger, huh? I somehow skipped a finger. Phone calling, right? Or networking events.
I count activity.
That's exactly right. Networking events or referrals, or you keep on, the list keeps on going, right? Yep. No matter what one of those methodologies that I just mentioned out of the 7, all that I care about is the number of conversations that I've hosted. Because at the end of the day, there are some buyers who will only respond through voice calling. There are some buyers who won't respond to that, who never respond to it, but will engage through digital communications. There are some buyers who will not respond to a LinkedIn email, but in fact will respond to a video message that you might send them. And the list goes on and on and on. So what we as sales leaders should be caring about, and which we as salespeople should be caring about, is, are my activities that I'm doing, phone, email, video, social, are they leading to conversations? Because if they're not leading to conversations, then I'm using the wrong mechanism to reach that particular buyer. I need to switch it up. And that's what digital selling is all about. Digital selling is using these digital platforms to engage with the buyers the way the buyer wants to be engaged with.
That's awesome. And I can tell you just from an example perspective, our friend Brian Fanzo was on the other day, and, he said, you want to get me, then you better send me a Twitter message because the email is going to get checked in 4 days. I saw.
And I can tell you that. I can tell you for sure, my buddy Brian Fanzo, if he's watching this, you tell him, you never respond to my emails, but you will respond to my tweet. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen that with some of the sales leaders, and, you've had a great hand in helping me get a bunch of these experts on, and they all seem to communicate differently. And we've got the who's who, and it's a perfect test or an illustration of what you're talking about. So I can appreciate how people want to respond.
And what's very important here is part of the digital sales transformation is not just utilizing all this omni-channel approach, but it's being smart about using the omni-channel approach. What do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is if I know that, pretending we're selling to Brian Fanzo, if I know that he won't respond to a freaking email, but he will respond to a tweet, okay, I better darn well record that in my CRM that I know that his preferred method of communication is Twitter. His preferred method of communication is a video, blah, 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 whatever it might be. I need to record that so that I can continue on in that methodology, right? And that I'm engaging with that person in different ways to be able to reach them and to communicate with the way they want to be communicated with.
Yeah, I think once again, what I love what you're saying is it's really about communicating with them in the way they want to be communicated with. And somehow we just completely miss that because we go, oh, it's the way I want to do it. Oh, I always do this. This is the way I always get it done. And, we know, let's be honest. I mean, 90% of the people that are selling today are barely making $1 in commissions. I mean, the top 10% pull home 80% of the money. So there's a lot of people who've got to make a change. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it starts a lot with the leadership, right? Yeah. Again, leaders like you and I, 40 and older, we grew up selling the way we grew up selling. Yeah. We don't understand it. We're scared of it. It's different. I can't measure it. I can't tell if there's going to have a recipe for success. Well, yes, you can. How many conversations did they have, right? Who cares how they got the conversation? Get the number of conversations that they had, because that's the key leading indicator of whether or not they're going to actually have a full pipeline.
That's awesome. Well, tell me this. So one of the things that we've talked about the modern buyer, their changes. Talk to me about kind of actionable things here. I'm sure there are some building blocks I think you speak of regarding digital selling. Talk to me a little bit about what that looks like.
Yeah. So great question. So there's really 5 building blocks to digital selling, and I'll rattle them off. So if anybody's taking notes, they can write these things down.
If you stutter long enough, then they have longer to write it. So it works out.
Exactly right. Exactly. So the 5 building blocks of digital selling starts with brand, your brand. The next one is learning how to engage. The next one is learning how to connect with your buyer. The 4th one is learning how to feed or nurture that network that you've got. Yeah. And the 5th and final one is what every sales leader cares about. It's converting and selling, right? So let's take this one by one. In the first building block, I talk about brand. We need to, as salespeople, establish our both personal and professional presence online with a complete profile that drives our prospective buyer to engage with us when they come to our social profile. Now, you'd be surprised. This is kind of it's not rocket science. It's kind of basic 101. But the funny part about this is you'd be surprised over how many reps profiles I see. Yeah. And we're talking about thousands that actually showcase the greatest sales rep in all the world, the best contract negotiator, which, by the way, you don't want your buyers to know that. The top producing, quota crushing, President's Club, multi-million-dollar earner. Well, why do they have that? Well, it actually makes a little bit of sense of why they might have that. Right. Because we were always taught to believe that profiles like LinkedIn are for helping us find a job, right? But the reality is if you have a job, then how do you use it so that you're actually attracting? Your LinkedIn profile, your personal brand, your digital footprint actually becomes the mini you.com website. Yeah. And what is the you.com website? Y-O-U, that's me.com website, my website, right? My personal website. It becomes this personal website so that when I engage with a particular buyer, if there's any level of remote interest whatsoever, if I email you, if I reach out through LinkedIn, if I tweet you, sometimes even when I place a phone call to you, right? If there's any level of remote interest in what you've said or have to say, they're going to look you up. Yeah. And if all they see is quota crushing sales rep, you lost your buyer on the first click. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so that is the importance of branding. You need to make sure that you are professionally branded such that you are attracting your buyers and not losing them on that first click. Yep. They don't care whether or not you are the best contract negotiator in all the world. In fact, they don't want you to be the best contract negotiator. Right?
They want you to be worse.
Yeah, exactly right. They don't care if you are the top performing quota crushing sales rep until after they've determined that you can help them solve a business problem. So that's really what your professional profile should demonstrate: who you help, how you help, what business problems you solve, and who else have you done it for. And that's the importance of making sure that you rebrand yourself so that your mini micro website actually pulls in your buyers and engages with your buyers. Yeah. Now, the next step I mentioned was called engaging, learning to engage. We as sellers, as part of the 5 building blocks of digital selling, need to understand which platforms our buyers would like to engage with us on. It might be text messaging, Ken. I've got clients who I text message, prospects who turned into clients who I text messaged and was able to solicit responses back, but they wouldn't respond to my phone call. They just won't, right? And I even got clients today who I will call because I haven't heard from them or I'm trying to get a hold of them. And I've emailed them, I've LinkedIn messaged them, I've tagged them on a social post. Nothing. I call them, nothing. I text them. Guess what? I get a response at 11 o'clock at night while they're, right before they go to bed, right? So we need to understand how to engage, and digital selling helps us to understand which digital platforms our buyers would like to engage with us on so that we can help them solve a business problem and share valuable information or initiate or maintain a relationship that we have with them.
Right.
The third element of digital selling is learning how to connect. The worst thing that we could do is send you, Ken, let's just pretend you're my buyer, my prospect. I send you a connection request that doesn't even have a personalized message. Or I send a personalized message that says, Ken, I'd like to connect with you because I'd like to be able to sell you blah, 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 blah. Or I'd like to be able to meet with you for 15 minutes to be able to show you how wonderful our product, blah, 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 blah is, right? The worst thing that you can do. But in addition to just connecting, it's also learning how to create the engagement, the discussion, so that it leads to the connection. There's a natural flow of being able to lead to that connection. Now, the fourth thing, and super important, the reality is most of the people that we engage with through digital mediums don't result in a face-to-face discussion. Very similar to a phone call. You've got to work your targeted audience to be able to get to creating more conversations. And that is the ever so important. If I connect with you, that's one thing. If I connect and now I want to engage with you to have a meeting, it may be too soon. But I have to provide value to you, and that is through sharing of content. And if I could share content or feed my network, feed you valuable insights, that will encourage you to say, yes, Mario Martinez has something that he can offer that is of value to me, that will help me in my business, that will help me grow sales, increase pipeline, that will help me be able to reach my targeted audience, whatever the case might be, right? But not every conversation is going to result inside of a meeting. But if they're inside your network, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook as an example, and you're publishing content on an ongoing basis daily that helps map to the buyer's journey, I cannot tell you the number of times that people reach back out to me and say, hey, I've been following you for 6 months, 12 months, 18, 2 years. Yeah. And I never wanted to speak to you then, but I want to speak to you now, right? Yep. And that's that part of feeding your network. And last and final is, if you take all those 4 elements that I just mentioned, the most important thing is every one of those steps leads to a conversion. Conversion to what? A conversation, right? So that you have the opportunity to be able to provide them something of value. In our world, sell them something. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. And I think I don't want to step over. You were rolling through this and it makes perfect sense how it all lines up. But I think one key concept that we didn't discuss is the difference between you talk about attracting, and I can't help but think there's a little friction between attracting and prospecting. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. So there's this push pull, right? The inbound versus the outbound. And a good sales rep is going to have a healthy balance of both. It can't all be inbound. It can't all be outbound, right? It's got to have a healthy balance of both. So the attraction part is you may be in my network or you may be in my extended network, and I want to reach you. I want to bring you into a conversation, right? A great example is there has been a VP of sales for an education company that has been engaging. He connected with me. I sent him some content. He subscribed to our list. He liked it. And then after that, he went cold on me. But for the last 3 months, he's been engaging with like almost daily with a piece of content that I publish out daily.
Yeah.
Now it's been about 3 months, almost 3 months. And just yesterday, I finally said to him, hey, thanks so much, Billy, for engaging with all this content. By the way, he had just liked one of my posts, right? So now was the perfect time. He knew exactly who I was. Thanks so much for doing that. I'd love to be able to set up some time with you. How's this week, or this week, or this time, and this time, and this time, 2, 3, and 4 weeks out to talk about, and in this case, your sales performance and how you guys are doing and what other methodologies might help you grow and increase the sales pipeline. Is now a good, can we arrange this now? Yeah. Fortunately for me, he was like, I'd love to be able to have a conversation, right? So it's exactly as I just described. He wasn't ready 3 months ago. He didn't want to talk to me. For some reason, he wanted to connect with me. He downloaded an asset. He was engaged somehow, some way. But it sped up with the content that I push related to the sales industry. He liked and or re-forwarded and or reshared. And so now I've been tracking that. Boom. It was time now after almost 90 days to be able to say, let's have a discussion, right? And that now earned me the opportunity after I proved myself to be able to engage in that conversation. So that's that attraction part, right? I attracted him into the network based upon something that he found or saw that was, as a second degree connection. The prospecting part is if I originally went to him, picked up the phone and or messaged him and or LinkedIn messaged him and said, I'd love to be able to have a meeting with you because here are some things that I noticed or saw, right? Where I'm actually creating outreach based upon a certain criteria profile, a business problem that I can solve, something I noticed that he or she may have commented on online to be able to trigger an event to say, let me go ahead and proactively reach out. So that's that prospecting. It also could be a phone call as well. Certainly that's not out of the realms of possibility. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's essentially what I'm hearing you say is that because of the fact that your micro brand is so important, and because of the fact, as I've heard some people say, LinkedIn may be even more important than your actual website based upon that's your customer's first experience with your sellers. Based upon those types of things, as sellers, we have to believe and think about ourselves from a term of what marketing looks like too, because we can't always control what the client's first impression of us is. Does that sound like an accurate assessment?
Yeah, fair. And I would add on one more thing, which is, look, at the end of the day, the LinkedIn juice on your LinkedIn profile is super powerful. How do I mean? What do I mean? Yeah. If you actually, for those of you out there, Google this, Mario Martinez Jr. And if you Google that, Mario Martinez Jr., I am just as active on Twitter and on YouTube as I am on LinkedIn. Yeah. Guess what? LinkedIn pops up first, right? Mm-hmm. So LinkedIn is a more powerful SEO juice on my personal brand, my personal name. So if someone wanted to find me, or for that matter, an employer wants to look up whether or not I'm going to be the next stud or studette for their sales organization, right? They're going to Google your name, and what will they find? You decide what they're going to find by using your social networks to be able to brand yourself and to be able to engage and feed your network. And all of that content helps Google and Yahoo and Bing to search engine optimize your personal brand, your personal name.
Perfect. And I think that's the next evolution for B2B sellers. We've just got to start to understand that, right? So I want to, you've given us so much content that I think people are gonna have to watch and replay and watch and replay and watch and replay, as I'm going to, a few times in order to make sure we write it down and figure out where we need to be investing our time. Narrow this down for me though. Talk to me about the 3 things that my brand or that I must do as a seller when it comes to digital selling?
Yeah, good question. So there definitely are three things. And first of all, your brand has to build credibility, right? Your personal brand must help the buying relationship because the buying relationship has not changed. It's still built on trust. And your profile is one of the first steps in building that credibility. Can you help them solve a business problem? What business problems do you solve? Who do you service? Who do you help? What other clients have you helped like them? Right? So that's the first thing it needs to do. The second thing it needs to do, I just mentioned it, which is show how you solve problems. You must demonstrate to your prospective buyers and customers how others are benefiting from your service, your solution, your platform, your product. And I'm not talking about that company ABC bought your guys' platform because of this particular feature or element. What was the business problem that they were trying to solve?
Right.
That's what you talk about, right? So you have to be able to showcase how you solve business problems. And the third thing that your brand must do, I mentioned this earlier, I've had people who have been following me for 6 to 24 months that weren't ready to talk to me then, but are ready to talk to me now. Your personal brand, what you publish, how you engage through digital, and that could be through the use of video, could be the use of social networks, could be the use of video with email as an example. It could be the use of video with text or text by itself. Through all these digital mediums, at the end of the day, the metric that should be governing your success rate is it helping to create conversations? That's the ultimate goal of your digital brand, is to attract, to teach, to engage buyers and convert them from a connection to a phone call. And yes, the phone is not dead. Or maybe I should say, and no, the phone is not dead. Or yes, the phone is still alive. However way you want to think about it, phone is still live. That's the end of the day. We're driving towards a phone conversation or a face-to-face discussion. And those are the three things.
I'm most worried that that you spend so much time trying to give an inanimate object life.
Yeah. Wait, say that one more time?
Said, I think I'm most concerned about you giving the inanimate object life.
That's exactly right. You do need to spend that time to be able to make that happen.
Yes, that's fantastic. All right, well, I got two questions left, and one of them's a little bigger, one of them's pretty simple, but two questions left before we wrap up here, because you've mentioned it a number of times. We had, Kurt Shaver and Bernie Borges and a bunch of other Van Gresso team members on, and they've talked a bunch about video. Give me, Mario Martinez Jr.'s take on what's happening with video and social selling.
Well, video and digital selling, right? Because it's not just related to just social alone, right?
Yep.
So first of all, I'm going to give you a stat. And this, if you're not listening or you were mildly paying attention, this should help you pay attention really, 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 really well.
Yep.
We ran a test, and we sent out a message to 1,032 individuals who connected to me through LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And we utilized a message that was personalized to each person with a personalized video. Okay. And we sent it through LinkedIn. Obviously, we knew that these individuals were users of LinkedIn because they connect with me on LinkedIn, right? So 1,032 messages. Random guess, wild guess for you. What percentage do you think opened the message?
Based upon like email run rates, that kind of stuff, I don't know, 8%.
So standard industry average could range anywhere between 3% to 35, sometimes 40%, depending on the industry, but that's extremely high. Most people are going to get a 3% response rate, right? Roughly about a 3% response rate. We had a 43% open rate on the video message that we sent to individuals. Now, these are our prospective buyers. Now, in addition to that, on the with the video comes a personalized sales landing page. Mm-hmm. And on that personalized sales landing page, which is a big thing for us in 2018 here, is having a sales landing page that is personalized, made just for you, Ken, just for you. Yeah. And it has thumbnails on there that has content that our buyers, like a sales buyer or sales enablement buyer or salesperson, would want to engage with.
Yeah.
We sent it out to 1,032. There were 3. Did I just do that? There were 3, that's what I meant to do, 3 thumbnails on that personalized sales landing page.
Yeah.
We had 1,022 clicks onto those pieces of personalized content. Now, if that's not a home run, if there is, I don't even, there's nothing else in the industry has proven to be able to drive those types of results, a 43% open rate with 1,022 clicks on those pieces of content out of 1,034 sends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else was as powerful as that we've done. Even our social engagement, I like to think I'm an expert. Even my social engagement has not produced that, right?
Right.
That is the power of sending video, because video is unique. Video is different. So where are we going in the industry? Well, think about, why aren't your buyers responding to you? Well, you're not doing anything that, quite frankly, is different than your competition. You've got to not do normal. You've got to do things that are completely different, that engages your buyer the way they want to engage. We know that they want to engage with video, so give them video. Yeah. Right? We're not talking about the long 10-minute long dissertations. We're talking about a 2-minute or less video. Preferably the optimal time is 1 minute or less, right? If you engage with your buyer in that methodology, here are some additional great stats that will be of interest to all of you who are listening. Video and email can boost your open rates by a minimum of 20%. Minimum in about 20%. I mentioned earlier that 59% of senior executives would rather watch a video than read text. Still true today. Including a video in an introductory email increase click-through rates by 96%. Why? Because most of the buyers who receive the video normally read text. When was the last time you received a thumbnail of you with a video YouTube embedded into your actual email?
Right.
Right. So think about that. Buyers are normally not receiving that. Now, why is video so vital? Right? This goes back to your question. Why is video so video king? Video is so vital because scientifically proven that if you engage with video, just like you're engaging and watching me now, you hopefully are sensing the passion, the excitement, the fire. You can see my facial expressions, my hand movement. All of these things help to build trust. Proven scientific fact. The human voice conveys emotion. The brain is hardwired to trust the human face, this guy right here, and also movement captures people's attention and it keeps their attention. So you ask me, why is video? Why is video so hot? Why should people be using video? There's a science. The science is it helps to build trust. Trust is what fundamentally sales is built off of. You buy from me because you trust that I'm going to be able to help solve your problem, or my company will help solve the problem, or both me and my company will help solve a problem. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that was awesome. And let me go ahead and make a plug for somebody within your company. So Kurt Shaver came in and he and I did an interview too, and it was all about video and it was standing out to getting in. So everybody who's watching this summit, make sure that you jump on and see what Kurt Shaver talks about in video, because we literally talk about the tools, the tactics, the strategies for 40 minutes, and we get deep into the weeds for it.
Oh man, Kurt Shaver. So I'll tell you an inside scoop for those of you listening. So I was the video king, right? When we all formed together, our Vingresso 6-way merger, we all came together in June of 2017. And I was dominating video. Well, Kurt got on the bandwagon. He was like, "Oh man, this video thing is pretty successful according to your stats that you're telling me, right?" So he comes out, he starts creating some really amazing sales personalized video content.
Yeah.
I mean, literally taking videos from clients' YouTube pages and putting that as his backdrops to a client a conversation, a proposal review. So he had, as an example, he was selling to a manufacturer, a trucking company. So he took the trucking companies, all their trucks off their video and he had it play in the background. He was like, "Hey, Mr. Customer, we can help you help these trucks be able to deliver more." And he's talking with it while the video is playing in the background, right? And there's no music. It's all silent video. It was brilliant. He put out one of the most brilliant pieces of video content that I have seen as a salesperson. And he was advertising that we were going to be at the Frost and Sullivan event, and he is in Lake Tahoe. So he put on a video where he's got a video playing in the background. Yeah. But this is the type of thing that actually engaged the buyers. I mean, the content was well received because it took the extra touch that nobody else in the industry is doing. And I'm not talking about these video players or video service providers out there that, you take these marketing can videos and all of a sudden on the bottom of the screen it says, "Hey Bob, hey Mario," right? Because all it's doing is name merging onto a video screen. I'm talking about personalized videos, video marketing for sales. And if you haven't watched Kurt's session, you got to watch it.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. My last question for you, which they picked up some of this just through this conversation, but tell me, they watched you come in, they watched you just absolutely dominate how they can go out and be more effective at digital selling. But if they want to find out more about Mario Martinez Jr. or Vengresso, clearly we have a digital presence. Where can they find you?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn and put in a personalized connection request message, the B2B Sales Summit rocks, right? Put that in the personalized connection message, B2B Sales Summit rocks. And you can find me on Twitter at M_3JR, Vengresso.com. That's VENGRESO.com. And I'll close with this parting thought here, Ken. I talked about not doing normal. Don't do normal, right? And I do want you to walk away. If there's only one thing you remember, don't do normal. But remember one thing. The only thing that truly sets you apart in sales is you. That's it. Our job is to make all things unequal. All things being equal, all things being unequal, our job is to make things unequal. And so if you are not engaging in modern digital selling techniques to reach the modern buyer, I promise you this, you will be left obsolete, like the brands, Blockbuster, the taxi industry, the music industry that suffered as a result of Apple being able to sell one single song or download. Many other brands that have gone under because they did not respond to the way the buyer demanded that they engage with them.
That is definitely powerful, Mario. And I can absolutely see after spending the time with you in this interview why so many people have ranked you in the top 25, the top 10, and the #1 online sales guru. I love the word guru, by the way.
I didn't create it. They created it, not me.
But it's just awesome. The work that you're doing on digital selling and how you're helping transform companies and B2B sellers' lives. And I can tell you this, that today you were able to transform the ability for people to go out and crush their quota this year for thousands of people. And I am absolutely honored you decided to spend your time with me here at the B2B Sales Summit.
Hey, man, thank you so much for having Vengresso and the leadership team. The B2B Sales Summit has been rocking it, and I appreciate you having us, and hopefully all of you found value in this. Please reach out to me, and I'm happy to connect with you.
Perfect. All right. We'll see you on the other side, Mario.
Thanks, bud.